Chargers fans, there's a lot more pressure and a lot more opportunity crammed into this moment than it looks like at first glance. On paper, it's a quiet end to the regular season. In real life, it's a straight-up stress test for January. There's one decision that sounds responsible when you say it out loud, and it can still mess with timing, chemistry, and that playoff edge you don't just flip back on like a switch. At the same time, there's a real conversation building about how this front office should attack the biggest weak spot on the roster. And then you've got a rookie who already made history and still walked out of Houston feeling like he left points on the field. All right. If you're riding with the Bolt fam, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a comment as we go. Because I already know this one is going to split the fan base. Be honest. Do you want the Chargers to protect their bodies at all costs right now, or protect their momentum? Because that's where we have to start. The Chargers didn't finish the regular season the way anybody wanted. They looked flat against the Houston Texans, they dropped to 11-5, and now there's one game left, a Week 18 showdown with the division rival Denver Broncos. And what makes it sting is how much that timing matters. The loss didn't just feel bad. It shifted the entire AFC West picture. Denver clinched the division after the Chargers' loss. So instead of this being a take the West back moment, the whole thing turns into a different kind of chess move. And here's the piece that gets people fired up. Instead of pushing for the season sweep of the Broncos, the Chargers chose to rest Justin Herbert and other starters for Week 18 in Denver. You can already hear both sides arguing in your head. One side is yelling, "What are we doing? It's a rival. It's a statement game. You don't let up." The other side is like, "Look at the injury list. Look at how banged up everyone is. You want to be healthy when it actually counts." That's the tug of war. Winning versus health. And Jim Harbaugh didn't tiptoe around it. He flat out said winning and being healthy are the two objectives. And the guys with the most bruises, the ones who need that time the most, are the ones they're giving rest to. And if we're talking Herbert specifically, he's been dealing with a hand injury since Week 13. At this point of the year, nobody's 100%. You're basically living on grit and tape, and sometimes one extra week is the difference between being available and being explosive. So what's the upside? First, recovery. You give your quarterback a week to breathe, reset, and avoid one more awkward hit in a game where the stakes are complicated. Second, you get real snaps for younger guys in a spot that's still an NFL game, still a divisional environment, and still pressure. Trey Lance gets the start in place of Herbert. Rookie Trey Harris gets more work. And no, resting starters doesn't automatically mean you're punting the game. Sometimes backups come out like their hair's on fire, you steal a win nobody expects, and that kind of jolt can actually carry into the postseason. But there's a downside that scares any fan who's watched enough football to have trust issues. Rhythm, timing, flow, chemistry. If you sit for a week, do you come back a half step slow? Do you lose that edge in the red zone? Do you walk into the wild card round and suddenly the game feels faster than you remembered? And beating a rival right before the playoffs can be the exact kind of fuel that powers a run. So the question isn't, is rest good? The question is this the right moment to do it? And while everybody's debating that, there's another reality hovering over this team like a cloud: the offensive line. The Chargers' biggest issue this season has been inconsistent line play. You've seen it in pass protection. You've seen it in how clean, or not clean, the run game looks. And you've definitely seen it when a drive stalls because one breakdown ruins a 3rd and long. The wild part is this. The Chargers are projected to have over $110 million in cap space this offseason. That's not maybe add a piece money. That's reshape the identity of the offense money. If there's one area you can't ignore with those resources, it's the front of the offense. Replacing center Bradley Bozeman should be high on the list, but right guard might turn into the more urgent situation because of what's happening with Mekhi Becton. Becton's first year in Los Angeles has been complicated. He's only missed 2 games, but he's been dealing with multiple physical ailments, and it's clearly limited his performance. Without an elite center or tackle next to him to stabilize everything, His effectiveness as a run blocker and a pass protector has dipped compared to where he was last season, and it got louder when he publicly complained about how the coaching staff handled his injuries and snap count. That kind of tension doesn't just evaporate. Even if you like the talent, relationships matter, especially in the trenches, where trust is basically the whole job. And from a roster management perspective, it's not hard to move on if it comes to that. Cutting or trading him this offseason would leave just $2.5 million in dead cap. That's manageable. That's a door this front office can actually open without wrecking the books. Now zoom out a little. With Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt set to return from injury and Zion Johnson having a solid season, the Chargers' biggest needs up front come down to center and right guard. They could address one of those spots late in the first round. They could double up in the draft. But with this much cap space, they don't have to be boxed into one plan. They can choose aggression if that's how they want to play it. And that's why one name keeps popping up: Isaac Seumalo. He's had an excellent year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's set to be an unrestricted free agent. If the Chargers decide they want to replace both Bozeman and Becton through free agency, Seumalo could be the ideal right guard target. According to Pro Football Focus, he's been among the elite pass-blocking guards in the NFL this year, posting the 4th best grade in that category among players at his position. That's not a cute number. That's the kind of stability that lets an offense live in Herbert in control mode instead of Herbert running for his life mode. And there's more. Seumalo has played on both sides of the line in his career, and that versatility matters for a team that's dealt with offensive line injuries as a recurring storyline the past couple seasons. SpotRack projects his next deal around 3 years, $28 million. And even if Pittsburgh wants him back, the Chargers have the kind of financial flexibility that lets them outbid most teams if they decide, yep, this is the guy. Think about that for a second. You've got a franchise quarterback. You've got a head coach who wants to lean into a physical identity. And you finally have the money to stop patching the line like it's duct tape season. Wouldn't you go get the steady, proven option? Or would you rather gamble that the draft fix hits fast enough to protect a playoff run right now? Now, here comes the twist, because Week 18 isn't only about resting Herbert. It's also about what Trey Lance can do with a rare spotlight. The Chargers don't have much to play for against Denver in terms of making the postseason. They're locked in as an AFC wildcard team. Sure, seeding can move, and there's always that chess element of who you might see in round 1. But with Herbert still nursing that hand injury, the most likely scenario is he sits and Lance gets the stage. And for Lance, this isn't some throwaway game. This is a job interview. Let me be clear. Trey Lance was drafted 3rd overall by the San Francisco 49ers in 2021, and he never really found his footing there. Injuries happened, inconsistency happened, and at a certain point, he got passed over in favor of Brock Purdy. Then he spent a season with the Dallas Cowboys before signing with the Chargers this past offseason. You can see the flashes. He's athletic. He can create. He can make defenses uncomfortable with movement. But the instability as a passer and the lack of confidence in the pocket have capped him so far. So what does Week 18 represent? A chance to put something on tape that changes the way teams talk about him in March. The Broncos' defense will be fighting for the 1 seed, so no, it's not an easy matchup, and nobody's pretending it is. But if Lance can be just effective enough, manage it, make a few throws, hit a couple chunk plays, avoid the back-breaking mistakes, he can give himself a real shot at a better market this offseason. His career starts so far? In 5 starts, he's completed 66 of 117 passes for 879 yards, with 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, plus 213 rushing yards on 46 attempts. That's the resume. And yeah, if we're keeping it real, this is the kind of setup where people glance at it and go, scheduled loss. Herbert is a premier quarterback, and he's missed just 5 games in his 7-season career due to injury, so there's no path to starting in LA unless something goes sideways. If Lance wants a chance to start at some point, the best plan is signing somewhere that has at least a real competition. And this game in Denver could be his cleanest audition to show he's worth that conversation. But even with all that, there's one storyline that might matter more than any single contract or any seating angle. It's the one thing that can kill a playoff team no matter how talented they are. Self-inflicted wounds. Because Oronda Gadsden, too, has been one of the breakout rookies from the 2025 draft class. He already set the franchise record for most yards and receptions by a Chargers rookie tight end. That's not a small thing. That's your changing expectations territory. But football has a way of humbling you fast. And against Houston, Gadsden had 2 drops. One of them in the red zone that turned into an interception by linebacker Azeez Al-Shair. After the game, Gadsden didn't duck it. He talked about how there are things you just can't do routinely at this level. How you've got to catch it, look it all the way in, tuck it all the way, because people are coming, and you've got safeties roaming who are trying to knock it out at any moment. That's the NFL. It's not just catch, it's catch under threat. And to his credit, he didn't crumble. He caught a touchdown from Herbert later and made an explosive 25-yard catch on the final Omarion Hampton touchdown drive, so the kid responded. But overall, it still felt like a setback when you consider the season he's been having. The run blocking and pass protection on tape also wasn't his best day, and that matters because Harbaugh ball is built on tight ends doing the dirty work as much as the flashy stuff. Now the part I loved? Herbert's response. He threw his support behind Gadsden as the team's top tight end. After that red zone drop, Herbert talked about how Gadsden is a pro, how there was no flinch, and he even owned that he could have taken something off the throw. But the bigger point was this. They kept fighting, and Gadsden made big plays down the stretch. That's trust. And in a locker room heading into the playoffs, trust is oxygen. Still, the Texans' game was a perfect warning label. Execution errors buried the Chargers in a playoff-like atmosphere. 2 early coverage busts put them down 14 fast, and even though the fight back was admirable, you can't help but think about the margin. Drops. Missed kicks by Cameron Dicker. Shanked punts by J.K. Scott. Little mistakes stacking up until you're chasing the game instead of controlling it. And here's what's scary. In the wildcard round, that stuff doesn't sting. It ends your season. So as we look at Week 18, whether it's Herbert resting, Lance auditioning, rookies getting snaps, or the coaching staff trying to balance health and rhythm, the core message is simple. The Chargers have to enter January clean. Not perfect. Clean. No free points. No self-inflicted disasters. Because the talent is real, the resources are real, and the window is real. Now I want to hear from you, Bolt fam. If you're Harbaugh, are you resting the starters in Denver, or are you chasing a rival win to keep the edge sharp? And this offseason, are you paying top dollar to fix the offensive line immediately, or trusting the draft to build it the long way? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want daily Chargers updates with real analysis and real fan energy, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because once the postseason starts, every single decision gets louder.